Welcome to the Art of Equine Alchemy. I'm your host, Amber Leidick, horse trainer, healer, and mentor. This is a podcast where practical horsemanship meets personal evolution. Here, we're diving into what it means to truly connect with your horse, yourself, and the world around you. Through conversations with equine professionals, horse owners, and members of our community, we will explore real stories, actionable insights, and tools designed to help you heal and thrive. This isn't just about horses. It's about transforming how you show up in your life. Because when you address what's happening within yourself, everything around you starts to align. Whether you're looking to refine your horsemanship skills, gain clarity on your own path, or create a more meaningful connection in all areas of your life, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the Art of Equine Alchemy podcast with our Mirror in the Stall series that we are doing. This is Jenn Acosta. I was just saying that I like to add an L to her last name, and I don't know why. So thank
Amber's
you.
just making stuff up.
I know. It's been years. I'm like, no, L Klaus, not her name.
That's hilarious.
That's a weird brain thing mine does. So I have been following Jenn. I don't know why or how I find you and found you. Like, this is how I make my friends. And I say friends, we've literally hung out like one time, but we're friends. Okay.
Needs to be more because
I
we are
know.
local,
We
but
literally live near each other too, and we don't. It's fine. Been following her for a long time and just love everything you post and how authentic you are and the message that you bring. So I was like, of course, she has to come on here. And I know you're not necessarily a horse girl, but doesn't matter because you're a human, and that is what we're talking about.
I do have some horse stories we can get into at another time. I was much more brave when I was young, and I love horses, and everyone, all you guys that work with horses, I admire so much. And one of these days I'll get out there with you, Amber, I promise. That's my next thing.
So, would you like to tell people what it is you actually do?
Yeah. So thank you for having me, Amber. I've always loved what you did as well. Yeah, I don't know how we found each other, but I love it. And that's mom life. We are local. We have to get together more. But I'm Jenn, and I've actually been a certified trained life coach for 20 years now. It's wild. I got certified when I was pregnant with my daughter, who is now 19, almost 20. And so that's what I've been doing. That's how I've made my living. I took a few years off when my babies were small, but other than that, that's what I've been doing. And I now train people who also want to, help people and coach as well. And so I train coaches, and also I really love to help people. So in my coaching world, what I really do good at is helping people to heal and transform emotional pain. I have found that when we really dig deeper, and maybe you can, this also speaks to the horse world, I don't know, is that when we really dig deeper, there's a lot of stories all of us have, including myself. And really, what's kind of in there that's holding us back is a fear or a be with, an emotion that we're avoiding, whether that's anger, sadness, fear, um, anxiety, whatever that is for you. So that's kind of where I really go. And I also love, again, Amber's, I love her posts as well. But now being a business owner, I love helping people to also get their message out online, because that's where we get to connect with other people and that kind of thing. So that's mainly what I do.
That's all.
That's
Just out here
it.
changing lives. Um,
Aw, you're so sweet.
um, Speaking to like the part of helping people go there, in the spaces that we avoid. I think the theme has sort of been in the calls I've done this week and then in conversations that we have all the time. It's like interesting that people know, I mean, maybe people don't know. That's a stretch, but a lot of people know that are starting to do the work or kind of in it is like, well, the things that I am avoiding is where the stuff is the information
Mhm.
is for me to be able to heal and close this loop or, move beyond it. And why do you think we avoid it? Like, what is your idea around that? Like, what if someone tells you, a therapist, a coach, or whoever says
Mhm.
that to you, and you're like, oh, well, actually, though, like, don't want to do it. Like, why do you think that that is?
So, in my experience, and this is also from my own experience, as well as working with many clients now for all these years, is that it's normally, it could be a few things, but normally it's, the first thing is we're just kind of stuck in a pattern. And, depending on where you want to go with this conversation, and some of this you probably know, and maybe you teach, from about 0 to 7 years old, our brains are sponges. We're literally absorbing everything that's going on around us. And that's what we hear, but also the tone. That's why when you're out there and you hear about energy or frequency, there is an energy that is everything. It's all around us. So, especially when in those formative years, when who we are in the world is forming, we're taking in everything around us. And I don't know about you, Amber, but I know that I was raised by two very loving, well-intentioned parents who messed up a lot. They did the best they can, but there was a lot of you know, discord or fighting about money or stress or just the way in which they looked at the world. My dad's an immigrant from the Philippines, Acosta. My mom's an Irish woman. So just two totally different cultures that loved each other, but had very different ideas. And so we as kids, and we were also told one main theme was we were told, my mom would say all the time to us, Amber, life is hard. Life is really hard. And she still says it, bless her heart. But what that did for me, a personal story to show you what this is about, is that then I took on, and everything until I started realizing this pattern, I saw as hard. Making money was hard, loving was hard, um, school was hard, friendships were hard, relationships were hard, all of it. And because I was told life is hard. So it was just this pattern that I took on unknowingly, that then just, it's almost like how I looked at my entire world and sort of mapped that on to everything until I became aware of it. So to answer your question, I think part of it, a really big part of it, is just a pattern. It's something that got stuck somewhere, and we're just living it out until we know better, right? And that's kind of what we do emotionally too, is just there's a pattern or a tone or an energy, and we just, if we grew up with a lot of anxiety or maybe depression or repression, addiction, we take that on emotionally unknowingly, and then we live that out in our life. So that's one of the things. And I would say quickly, the other thing too is just that is just, it's comfortable even when it's uncomfortable. Like, it wasn't comfortable to think life and love and friendship is hard, but it was familiar. So it was just comfortable. And
Mhm.
doing anything else, was actually more difficult. So it's just and our brains are always going to look for what's familiar,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What was the, do you have a defining moment where you were sort of like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this anymore? Like,
Yeah.
I, I recognize this. I mean, every single person I've talked to and stuff I teach
Mhm.
is like the awareness thing is like a superpower.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the most important thing you can have, even if you don't choose to do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Fine-tuning that awareness is huge. And I think for everyone, there's like a moment where you become aware of it, or whether it's gradual or like one major thing. Do you have something that you can kind of remember where you're like, oh, I think that I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, I have a few, but probably the first one, I was really, really young, and I didn't excel very much at school. My brain works very differently. I'm more of a creative type, and that was a little bit of a struggle for me because I was always told I have to do math. I have to. So that's a whole other conversation. But um, I was really young and like just thinking about more esoteric things. I grew up on Long Island, New York, and it was a 45-minute train ride into Manhattan, the city. And at 16 years old, I was going in Tuesday nights. I remember by myself. I'd take the train to go to a study in Course in Miracles.
Oh
And I
my
was
gosh.
16. I know. Like what? Who does that? But I did it, and I was like by far the youngest there. Anyway, so that says who I was. And then, without getting too detailed in the story, when I was 14, and this is probably what catapulted it, my sister, who's alive today and close to me, we're 14 months apart. So we were very close all our lives. She was in a drunk driving accident when I was 14. She had just turned 16, and she was in a coma for 4 months
Oh
on
wow.
on life support in ICU and in rehab for almost 3 years. She had to learn how to talk again, walk again, go to the bathroom alone, all that. Um, and so obviously that night changed my life forever because our entire family, when a tragedy happens, the whole family, we thought we were going to lose her at first. So for a long time, it was that my parents just went to be by her bedside all the time. At 14, I wound up taking care of my younger brother and sister who were in diapers and quite young. So in high school, as a freshman, I'd come home when everyone was partying and I'd be changing diapers and making dinner and putting them to bed. And so I did that for a while Noelle was still healing, Amber. And then at 18 years old, I'll never forget. And this is the answer to your question. After all that, Noelle was better. She'll never be the same as she was. There was so much head trauma, but she's better. She was better then. And it was like when a family or when you go through a crisis or a trauma, it's like you're just surviving. And then once you get out, it's almost like that's when the shit hits the fan, if you will. And I remember I was 18 years old and I had graduated high school somehow. I don't know how, because I was just getting through. And I was sitting in a college classroom in Long Island and I was looking out the window, and exactly the thoughts that you said came into my head of like, I can't do this anymore. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't have any purpose. I just at 18 I had given up, and I knew if I didn't change something that I would do something bad. Like
Mhm.
I really was that lost and alone, and there was so much trauma and so much noise and in my family, and just so many things had happened. And so that's when, Amber, I literally, this was how gutsy I was back then. I packed up, this is a true story. I packed a backpack at 18 years old. This is in 95, I think. And I got on a train, a Greyhound bus in Long Island, and I applied for a month-long work study program at Esalen Institute in Big Sur,
Oh, cool.
California. It's a spiritual center for those that don't know. I applied for a 1 month program I knew I needed a major change.
At
And
18, that's crazy
at
that that
18
was the
alone,
choice.
oh, I
Like,
know, it
I
was
need a
like,
spiritual soaking in of some sort. Not, I'm gonna go
it was,
party and go do drugs and go
well,
somewhere.
I had done a lot of that. I had done a lot of that. But it was one of those things, Amber, like at that point, and I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I, at that point, could not just make a small change. I needed a drastic change of everything, or I wouldn't have made it.
Mhm.
So I got on a Greyhound bus and went all the way across the country, took 5 days on a Greyhound bus by myself. I knew no one. I got to Esalen and I left 3 years later.
Oh, wow.
And that was just, it was, I needed that, a totally different change. And for anyone that knows Esalen, especially back then, it's changed since. I haven't spent much time there recently, but it was just a place of transformation and healing. It's on the coast. It's gorgeous. I got to work with all these teachers from around the world, spiritual teachers that would come and teach. I got to meet people from around the world. And it's really the thing that opened my eyes to who I really am and to what life is all about. And that's kind of the beginning for me.
Mm. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like I
I
didn't know
was
that.
gutsy, man. I
I
have a
was like,
19-year-old.
wow.
I wouldn't let her do that in a million years, but it was a different time back then, you know?
Yeah, and so how do you think as far as like generational stuff being passed down,
Yeah.
um, I a couple years ago dove really deep into It Didn't Start With You, which is a really amazing book. Have you read that book? It's so
Um,
freaking good.
no, but I want to write it down.
It's
It
so
didn't start
good.
with you? Okay.
Yeah. And he goes into the first part of it is just describing the scientific biological side of like how the stuff gets passed down. Because I think for a long time I would hear, oh, generational trauma, and I'd be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's whatever.
Right. Right. Gloss it
Until it
over.
yeah, until I read that book and I was like, oh, this is like a nervous system thing that is like in your DNA. Like
Mm.
it's not just some like you knew your grandma had a hard time and maybe it affects you. It was like, no, it's in you.
Mhm.
And he talks a lot about actual timelines. So when something at a certain age happens to you, or I think goes all the way 2 generations back, at
Mm.
that same age, me or you or whoever can actually feel the effects of what that person experienced. So they talk to a lot of Holocaust survivors. So they don't understand why they hit 16 and all of a sudden they're like, I'm so depressed, I'm falling apart, I'm freaking out. I have no idea why all of a sudden I'm afraid to fly. I'm like, and they have all these crazy, overwhelming fears
Whoa.
that happen. And it is because if they trace it back, they realize someone in back here at this age, I know, me
Chills.
too,
Wow.
happened. And so I always think about that when I hear people tell a story you know, about their life and what has happened to them at certain ages that were big. And I'm like, you know, I always wonder if it happens with people with adult children, if they notice like, oh, that's interesting because at this same age, all of a sudden, I only ask that because I'm experiencing it right now with my kid, where I kind of feel like me and him, he's 19 now.
Yeah.
It's just always been very effortless and easy. Like
Mm.
very close. Never
Yeah.
really had to put any boundaries in place.
Yeah.
Always came on time home and did the homework and did good in school, graduated 6 months early, was a
Mm.
manager at O'Neill's. Like all the
Mm.
things were happening and then all of a sudden it was like boom, a wall hit. He's very resentful and angry. And we are in therapy, but like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so interesting how it was just like this all of a sudden and
Wow.
can't really find the root of why it happened, and I don't know if he knows why it happened.
Ooh.
But we're searching for that.
Mhm.
But
And
I
that's,
started
are you
thinking about
saying
that.
that's a time that you struggled? Is that what you're saying?
My dad,
Mm.
there was a couple different things very specific for my relatives. I think I struggled at 18, but it was like normal struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm 18,
Yeah.
I'm feral, I hated school.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
all,
Mhm.
and I don't feel like there was anything. I mean, I did struggle with different stuff like that, but seems more significant. And so I was
I
sort of
see.
trying to like dig around and investigate, like maybe there is something like that that is sort of triggering it that has nothing to do with, his actual experience. I don't know. So
Whoa.
my brain was sort of swirling around in that direction. And I know you have kids that are around the similar age, and I'm just wondering, like, how is that for you? Because I know in the group people have adult
Yeah.
kids that are transitioning from like being these teenagers to like adults that aren't really adults. Like,
Right.
and I look at myself, I'm like, am I an adult? Like, is anyone adulting?
Yeah. Right. I know.
Like, I don't know what you're waiting
Totally.
for to happen. But,
Yeah.
what was that transition like for you with your kids?
Wow. Well, first of all, I just want to say you made me have this like moment really quick because actually and I know you said sometimes it skips generation, but just thinking, my daughter, the pandemic started when she was 14. And just
Hmm.
like you're saying with your son, my son's a different story. But my daughter has always easy breezy, no problem, friends,
Hmm.
beautiful life. And then at 14, that was really difficult for both my kids. And so that's when my sister got it. So I was just like,
Hmm.
whoa, um, but to go back to your question, yeah, I think girl, I'm still learning. My son is 17, my daughter is 19, almost 20 in April, and I've never done this. I tell my kids, I've never raised a kid before. I don't know what I'm doing, you know, but it's a trip. My daughter just left home last year. It was the first time. She's living in Santa Barbara. She's creating a beautiful life for herself. I'm very proud of her. But just the other day, there was a job she interviewed for that she very much wanted, and she didn't get it. And I just noticed this need in me to like make it better and take away her pain. And oh my God, you'll get another one and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I actually had to stop myself and just like, oh, Coral, honey, I'm so sorry. I know you're disappointed. I'm so sorry. And that I still have to practice that, Amber. Like my initial is like, okay, I'm going to drive down there. I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm the savior. But I realize like I have to, of course, I'll always be there for her, but I have to let her stumble. I have to let her fall on her face. I have to let her go for things and feel disappointed and fail. And because that's what that's the world, right? Where it's challenging. I mean, where there's going to be rejection, there's going to be pain, there's going to not be where you don't get what you want. And so I noticed that's something right now that I'm still working with my children, especially, is that like that need to fix or take away pain. When I think when they're younger, they fall, get hurt, we can put the band-aid on and kiss the boo-boo and da 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 and do all we can. But now, my dad used to say, small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And I know what he means now that they're older. It's like, I can't, just kissing the boo-boo does not take away the pain. And that's a big be with for me as a mom. That's
Hmm.
hard for me.
Hmm. I literally, before we got on this call, just posted like that exact sentiment of
Really?
of the struggle and the hard stuff. I feel like I've always been good, but I've judged for it because I feel like I'm not a good mom because I see it happening and I'm like, I know.
Mm,
I can hold the space. I know people say I can hold the space for clients, but my own children, I'm like, why is it so easy for me to do it with my children? Does that mean I'm a bad mom? Because I see
oh.
the struggle and I
Mhm.
and I'm like, God, that sucks. But like you have to kind of have that or you're
Yeah.
going to end up an adult that doesn't know how to do it. It's a harder road if you're
Yeah.
30 and all of a sudden feeling like you're on your own to figure stuff out. Because I know people like that. And I'm like, I will not let you. Maybe that's why. Because I have
Yeah.
examples of people close to me, actually, one I've dated, where I look at, I'm like, you are almost in your 40s and you don't know
Yeah.
how to function. And that is because you had a
Yeah.
mom who was always and still is. And so I think maybe that's why where I'm like, I won't let that happen. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, can I just say, I think that's brilliant, and that thank you for sharing that because I'm still learning it, but it's definitely gotten easier for me without getting too into detail, but as I've watched in the last couple of years the world turning, I'm
mm,
realizing that really is true. I think at least this is my opinion. I think especially for younger kids, the younger generation, the ones that are challenged, that are having the hardest time right now, have had that sheltered, oh,
mhm,
where like life has to kind of pander to them.
mhm.
Whereas I'm realizing, that sort of love that you're talking about, of like, yeah, you need to go through this, is in the long term, maybe it's hard right now, but long term, that is what's benefiting my children, is
Yeah.
understanding that life, isn't always going to bend to them. and it's about who they're rising to be and how resilient they are, and that kind of thing. So I agree with what you said. It's still challenging for me, but I'm right there with you. It's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. I feel like my little one is going to be a very, very different ride. I feel like high school, we might we might have a rougher ride to school in your high. So I'll get the other picture of the second one, but whew,
One at a time, one at a
yeah,
time.
my God, and I think that for me is being more maybe showing that I maybe for me, it's like, how can I show that I am empathetic for what you're going through?
Mm,
Because I think it doesn't feel like I'm being supportive because no one's like coming to, and I do live on a
mm,
property with my mom.
yeah,
We have a whole compound thing happening here. She was very much like I was,
yeah.
but now as a grandmother is not, where she's coming in and like, let me do the thing. Do you need this? And I'm like, there's a balance. And I feel like I almost might be swinging the other way to balance it out. Like, you are
Right,
so
right.
hardcore coming in too much. Like let him struggle a little bit. Like I
Mm,
know it's hard to watch. I ended it. I went away and struggled. You just didn't see it because it wasn't on the property. But like,
right, right.
I mean, did we
Funny
not
how
all
that
go through that?
happens.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's been
Yes.
an interesting process. But I think
Mm,
too, the entry point for people and the awareness is that, right? It's that like overwhelming discomfort that like washes over you and you're like, you're not going to expand or get curious about what the next thing
mhm.
could be unless you have discomfort. Like that is the
Yeah.
catalyst for like the movement, I feel like. So it almost feels like hindering growth if, you're stopping it, which yeah, isn't necessarily easy. The little one doesn't like being uncomfortable. I say little, he's like 12 and he's like getting as tall as me or 11, but he's very vocal about not liking the discomfort. Like,
Yeah, sure. Of course.
so
I
this one
mean,
might be a
that's
different experience for me.
you're
New
so cute.
lessons.
Absolutely. Hmm.
So for you and that piece of when you bump up against like I really want to do this for you, but no, I should maybe let it happen. Is there something you do for your own nervous system or to support yourself in those moments when you're conflicted on when part of you wants to do a thing, but you know you shouldn't? Is there something that you do, like a process or anything that you have that helps you show up for
Mm.
yourself a little bit in those moments?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, thanks for the question. I think what you said, first of all, is huge that people, I think, don't actually understand just how big what you said is that so much of this starts with the awareness. It's like we all do what we do, right? We have these lives, we have behaviors we do all the time. And, in my world, that's, what we do and who we are creates our world. Really, that's the way that I work. And so if you don't want or don't like what you're getting, the results in your life, really dialing it back is looking at what you are doing and who you are being to then change the results, right? So, what you just said is huge in that where it starts is noticing, oh, I'm about to do this, which I know will have the consequences of this, this, and this. And if I want different consequences, I should change this. So the awareness starts right there with whatever. And this can be small things, if you're trying to get healthy and you want that second piece of cake or whatever it is, right? It's like, oh, maybe I should do something different if I don't like those results, right? Maybe I should go for a walk or have a glass of water. I don't know. So that's huge in that just understanding what we are doing and who we are being creates our world. It creates the results we have. It creates our life, the outcomes. That's really what it is. So if you want a different outcome, it's really about doing different things and being a different way. It's all of it. So in answer to your question, if I'm about to do something, right? Like, and for me, I'm from New York. I'm an Aries, so I have a lot of fire. Like my biggest thing has been like the reaction, like because
Mm.
man, I might live in Santa Cruz, but man, I can get like, So I've had to like dial back because I realize, I love that part of me that's fiery and ready, and I never want to give that up. It's who I am, but I also have in through the years saw how sometimes me just reacting creates consequences that I don't necessarily want for myself or the people that I have the interaction with. So that's been a big awareness for me, is learning to not always be reacting, not always saying what's on my mind. Sometimes I do,
I
but
have a lot of Aries friends. It's fine.
yeah, girl, we're bringing the fire. Yeah. So, again, in answer to your question, I think for me, it starts with awareness. And that's a lot of what I think you do and what I do with clients is most people are just not even aware of who they are being and what they are doing and how that affects their life. So it starts there. And then it's like really getting clear on what it is. What do I want to create? And what does that require? And who is that asking me to be? Like, I don't know, a simple example is if I'm trying to make more money, right? Okay, what does that outcome require of me today?
Hmm.
Is it doing more emails, doing more podcasts, getting more clients, or whatever it is, right? Or is it, about going on and doing a video, using my voice, making a change in the world? Like, whatever the outcome is you want, what can you do today to move towards it? And what can you not do that's going to move you away from it, right? That was a big one for me. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I
Hmm.
think it's really just a process of awareness and then being able to, because once we're aware, Amber, then we actually have choice. Like
Hmm.
I used to say all the time, oh, you have a choice. It's your choice to do that. But actually, most people that aren't aware don't even know they have choice. So it starts with
Hmm.
awareness and then realizing we actually do have a choice for the most part. And if you can't change what you're doing, then change or think about who you're being. So there's choice somewhere. So it's like, is your choice aligned with the life you want? I
Hmm.
think that's really the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then you had said earlier about supporting people and finding their voice within their
Mm,
business, but
yeah.
that I always say I get sticky notes in my brain when I do this, and like sticky notes in my head, like, oh, I want to hear more about you. That
Uh-huh.
piece of, because I know in the last couple calls that I had, a
Yeah.
couple people had in the comments mentioned like wanting to be heard and understood so desperately, but not knowing how to get it out. Like they're afraid to say it, the thing,
Mm,
or they're afraid to show up
mm,
on camera, on social
mhm.
media because of whatever they have going. How do you sort of support people in that piece of like finding that the courage to maybe do the thing that they're saying? I really want to do this thing, but I'm scared.
Yeah, no, that's another great question. It's really a little bit of a process. It's not very hard. It's simple, but the process which starts with, again, what is it you want? I think, you know, I don't know, if you know what you want, then kind of building a plan or taking action to get there is the more simple part. I think a lot of people are stuck in their circumstances now, like, oh, I'm too old, I don't know what I'm going to say, I don't look right, the lighting's not good or whatever, the microphone's not good or whatever. But it's like I'm always, okay, what a clear vision,
Mm,
and that has to be louder
mm,
than that chatter that
mm,
just is noise. you
right.
know so I think for me that's really where I start with someone, is what is it that you want? And how do we create that vision that's so big and loud that none of that
Mm.
matters?
Oh yeah.
One of the people I know you love, I've studied under, like, Joe Dispenza, and
Oh, I'm
probably
going to my
everyone.
first Joe event
You
in
did?
March. In March. No, we're going.
In LA?
I just signed up 2 days ago. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm like on the verge of
Oh
signing
my
up. I just
God,
have
do
to
it.
I just have to change a few things. I have something scheduled, but I'm like, how can I miss that in
I know.
LA?
My friend
Um,
Shaylee, she texted me because we actually in our membership we're doing his one of his books for the book
yeah.
club, and she
Uh-huh.
just sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh God, okay, go." I just did. I was
Yeah.
like, "Shit, I don't even know if someone's gonna watch the kids. I don't know anything except that I was
It'll
like,
all
I'm
work
going."
out.
I know.
Totally. I know. That's one of my things today to do is like, how do I get there? Like, I have to move. Anyway, really quick, you'll find, if you don't know this already, one of his biggest things, and I just did a video on this, but one of his biggest teaching is that when you want to change the your focus and your commitment to the change has to have more energy. These are his words, more energy than your current story.
Mm,
So, right now, most people are focusing on I'm not young enough, pretty enough, good enough. I don't know what to say. I'm going to say it wrong. People are going to make fun of me. But their focus and energy is on that.
mhm,
What he says is when you want change, what you want has to be bigger and more energy in that than in this.
mhm,
And when we start to do that, this grows and grows and grows.
mhm,
So it's literally like Amber. I mean, now I don't even think twice about it. I've done so many videos, but in the beginning, I just had to record, just do it
mhm,
because I had a bigger purpose. I had a bigger message. I wanted to, grow my business and grow my voice and all that. So that was way bigger than the chatter. And I think
mhm,
that's the starting point is you have to get what is it that you want?
mhm,
And that has to become more important to you than the bullshit.
mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the benefit of the pain and the discomfort and the
Right.
anxiety and the
You get
frustration.
so over it.
Yeah, you're like, forget
I,
it. It's fine. I might feel stupid. I might be scared. I might whatever, but I'm not doing this anymore, which I think is why the suffering is such a gift sometimes.
exactly. It is. Yeah. Not easy, but
Yeah. So, do you have any like daily practices that you do that sort of keep you grounded and keep, that rhythm and that the
Mm,
focus on what the next thing is for you or for that day or whatever that is? Do you have anything that you do sort of consistently that keeps that
yeah.
for you?
Yeah, I don't do this every day, but I have something and anyone can do this. I call it a dream day journal. This is kind of fun. It's not every single day, but I'll read over it quite often. And it's literally like, what do you want? I think a lot of us don't allow ourselves to dream because we are always wondering how the heck would we ever do this or get there? Or, oh my God, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, or all the other things. So, like, what is it you want? If you were to wake up in your dream day, what does that look like? Like, are you on a mountaintop and going to spend the day snowboarding? Or are you on a beach in Hawaii and you're going to spend the day in a bikini with your honey and your kids? Or, where is your work? Like, are you driving to an office? Do you work from home? Do you help people? Are you working for corporate? And everyone's going to be so different. So I think so much of it is, again, we're all so caught up in our own lives and our circumstances that we're not really actually clear about what it is we do want. So a dream day journal is kind of fun where I get to let myself like dream a bit. And again, don't worry about the how. The how is not the important part, but it's like, what do we want? I've always said the universe. So our job is the what and the why. What do we want and why? And the universe's job or God's job is the how and the when. So if we leave that to the powers that be and we're just really clear on what it is we want and why, what's driving us, who do we want to help, all that, then I think we'll be so much better off. But too many people are so focused on the how. And it's just we kind of stop ourselves. So that's a fun one you can do once a week, even upgrade it, change it. Sometimes our dreams change, but it's always like it gets you out of like your just current circumstances, which sometimes are really heavy.
Mhm,
And then other than that, hun, I mean, I'm kind of like you with the like geeky, like I've learned this isn't from especially the age I'm in with changes in my hormones and stuff. Like I don't turn my phone on for the first like 45 minutes of my day. I get my feet outside barefoot. I get sun in my eyes. I'm drinking water with some, salt. Like I do find that when I'm feeding my body and doing what I can to like take care of this really gets in line with that. So all those little like biohacks, those are kind of fun. Um, Affirmations I think are great, but they land. All I would say about them is a lot of people, they're really flat, like I am rich, I am loving, and it's like so I would just say again, a Dr. Joe Dispenza thing and Tony Robbins and all the greats that add emotion, like, oh, I am fucking rich, like
Mhm.
I am wealth, I am love. It's like the universe responds to like energy and emotion. So if you're going to say those things, man, open your heart. Like if you were won the lottery, would you say, "Wow, I am rich," or would you be like, "Thank you, oh my god, thank you"? So do that now,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shaylee and I did a manifesting magic, and we usually do it in January, and we have people pick a power song. And then they
Well,
write a letter. And so they read the letter while they listen to the song. So it brings up the emotion as they're, because I think that's
oh,
like
that's perfect.
it's a tricky
Or
thing for people, right?
dancing
When
to
you're
the
just
song.
reading
Yeah.
it and you're like,
Yeah.
this isn't real though.
I
So you have to
know.
like trick your body and your mind into feeling
Exactly.
it.
I know, like dance in the kitchen, whatever you need to do to zhuzh that up. Totally. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we're
Yeah.
wrapping up, is there anything else that you feel like a burning desire to share before we wrap up?
No, just that I love this conversation. Thank you for having me. I hope it helps someone. And that, one of the things when you asked me to do this about relationships, I did write down, and I kind of saw this a while ago. And I'm still learning and growing in relationships, whether it's to loved ones, primary person, my kids, my family, friends. I'm still learning. But somebody said something, and what he said was, most fights are not about facts. Like, we're not fighting about, most of them are not fighting about what happened and what the facts is. It's more about an unmet need.
Hmm.
And so I've started the practice of asking myself, instead of trying to be right, I ask myself, like, what is needed here? Like, what is not being said? And how can I can't change them. So what can I do? Or who can I be? Maybe it's not always about what can I do, but who can I be? What is the unmet need here for them or me? And that's where I try to move from in relationship. And it's a practice. I'm far from perfect, but it's that really hit to me. It's like dropping the need to be right, and realizing it's not about the fact, but what is not being said here? What is that unmet need?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I'll have to use that
that's
one.
a little tidbit there.
That's perfect and great, and I love that.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so if people want to work with you, where can they find you? And I'll also
Yeah,
stick it in the
thank
show notes.
That'd be great. Yeah, I have an Instagram. You can do, or Facebook, TikTok. I mean, I think I'm pretty much YouTube on a lot of the platforms. But yeah, if they send a message through Instagram or Facebook, usually my team or I'll see it. I also have a school platform, which Amber, you should do if you haven't yet. So,
Oh, I know.
um,
What's that?
I'll say it's school SKOOL, and it's really just a platform that guy Alex Hermosi has
Oh, yeah.
created, and it's like all about community. So I'm still learning, but it's so great as if coaches or other people listen, like if you ever wanted to build a community, you just plug your content in and they do it all for you. It's
Oh,
so
cool.
lovely. And it's really, I'm working on building a place that we can all of us on a healing journey can really support each other in that way. So that's another way that, and much obviously less lower price as if you were to work one-on-one with coaches.
Hmm.
So yeah, just send a message and I can see how I could support in whatever way. So
Cool. Well, thank you for hanging out.
I love you.
I know, I love you too. And one day we're going to hang out in real life.
We really will. And we will let you all know it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll talk later, hun.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for having me and nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.